Welcome to Beyond the Signboard, where you get the opportunity to learn all there is to know about your real estate journey from professionals who are passionate about property. I'm Amy Bennett, your host, and I look forward to providing you with education, inspiration, and a behind-the-scenes look at the world of real estate. Hi everyone, it's Amy Bennett here from the Beyond the Signboard podcast. Delighted to welcome my guest, Belinda Massey from Move On Consciously.
Thank you for having me, Amy.
My pleasure. You are. I just said off air, you're so brave. We only had the pleasure of meeting last week and I roped you in straight away.
Oh, it's the podcast. Once I listen to it, it's definitely one that I want to be on. It's lovely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Before we get stuck into it, I have just picked up this beautiful note about your business, which I think is absolutely sums up who you are. So Move On Consciously is a heartfelt initiative inspired by a personal journey of compassion and practicality. You say here, imagine your parent moving into aged care after a fall or passing away, leaving their fully furnished home vacant. What you do is an absolute gift. We're going to delve into what's led you to where you are, the passion for what you do, and obviously hopefully some education as well so that people really consider their own move, and also a little bit of pre-planning I think is going to be probably something we discuss.
Yes, for sure. It's always healthy to think about, I guess, those next steps. And so your podcast so far, listening to Kim and, moving and so forth, and there's just so much in it.
Yes.
And I'm happy to be part of people's journeys in that way. It's nice to be able to help.
Yeah, it's amazing because I think also too, certainly my experience in, both pharmacy background and then now helping people to downsize is we don't want to think about that yet, do we? We, so often, you'd be the same with clients. Like you say, it's when someone's had a fall or, ultimately the rubber hits the road and they need to sell. So
it's often an event that leads them or their loved ones to having
Yes.
to do it. In my experience, it's usually been an event that's usually not happy.
Yes.
That's driven them to having to then sell all of their items, which is always quite a little bit sad because people have had things for 30 plus years. They love their things, and it's the job of the descendants or the loved ones to then move them on. And they don't want to say they don't want them, but that's the truth. Quite often, practicality is we don't often want a lot of the things that people have in their home.
Absolutely. So we're going to learn your personal journey as well as to how this all started. I know that you were really instrumental in your mum's estate as well. But before we get there, I know you have a very interesting story with a lot of travelling the globe and your background. So take us back to Belinda at school and if you don't mind,
Sure.
how you've got to where you are now.
So, the first 25 years of my career have all been in accounting, and I've loved accounting. Like, accounting it's taken me around the world. So I've spent the first 15 or 20 years here in Australia in accounting. I worked for Mars Pet Care and I worked for Amcor Flexible. So they were both great companies, big companies that gave me a great grounding in how to work with part of teams, how to work individually and autonomously. And I went to live for 2 years in New Zealand and we opened a new plant and and so that was just a great experience. Then we came back to Australia, my husband and I, we had some kids, but then we decided we wanted to travel a bit more once the kids were a bit bigger.
And he's in a similar field?
He is. He's an accountant as well.
Yes. How is that? Two accountants.
It's good, really. Like it's
you get each other.
You get each other. You get what some of the pressures are, and when you talk some of the technicalities, I understand, which is nice. It is nice to be able to talk shop, as they say.
Yes.
So we were really we were grateful to get the opportunity through my husband's work to travel to the UK for 2 years. And then straight after that, we went to the USA for 3 years, and I was able to change jobs. I was a consultant in accountancy for a while. I did 2 stints as the accountant for software startups, and that was really, really fascinating. Like having an entrepreneur sitting right there that's invested millions in his business and growing it, and it's just the energy of a startup.
That's amazing.
It was amazing after coming from a really solid, huge corporations that I would be in Australia. So, and I've also had the pleasure of just going part-time. So I've been a part-time accountant for the last, I guess my kid's 19, so the last 15 years or so I've been part-time.
And that was important to you, wasn't it, to spend time with the boys?
It was. I mean, we were in a position to be able to do so, and we're just amazing that I was able to do so. And it's been great, like being able to have my time to myself and being autonomous. Like accountancy, thank God, it's not like people are dying in accountancy.
Yes.
People can wait for a report.
Yes.
So, I worked certain days or certain hours, and I was flexible and they were flexible. And it was, it's a win-win. I've enjoyed especially even like in the 25 years that I've been working, the ability to work from home and the openness from companies to let you do that and have that flexibility.
That's transitioned and changed, or always been there?
Well, it's just slowly come, especially as when I went part-time.
Yes.
As soon as you sort of do that, it's very much a give and take that, sometimes they'll want extra, sometimes you'll want a day off, and it's just much more flexible. And computers have just changed in that time. Xero, online Xero, being able to log into things. Yeah, the accounting has changed in the 25 years so that you can do it from home.
So where did you study accountancy?
RMIT in Melbourne.
Amazing. So was that, I'm just thinking 25 years ago, were you studying on a computer or?
Yeah, I had my own computer at home. I bought my computer in year 12.
Yes.
I used to work for KFC all throughout high school, so I bought my first my own computer, which it was a 360 something or other back then, and big huge computer on a big desk.
Yeah, probably not even fire up nowadays, would they?
It would be somewhere in landfill.
Yeah,
that computer has been, or maybe hopefully being recycled. I don't know. But yeah.
And then because I actually went all the way to grade 12 with accountancy, and it's really interesting. Whenever I think of it, I think of my teacher back then. She would always say to me about how loud I was on the calculator. Yeah, but obviously we used to draw up our own profit and loss statements and everything like that. So I actually never learnt accountancy on computers. I then had several roles that saw me doing things like Xero. And look, I'm a real nerd for finance, accountancy. Isn't this funny? But one of my favourite things about Xero was reconciling at the start of every day.
I loved it too. The bank reconciliation, it's just satisfactory. It's just so satisfying to get everything reconciled. It's a very black and white type of thing.
Yes.
And it's either done or it's not done.
Yes.
And it gives you that satisfaction. Oh, done.
Yeah, and even investigating the why it hasn't reconciled for those that haven't had experience of or know what we're talking about. So essentially in the morning you would log into Xero, you would have a transaction log, and intuitively it would almost, know where the funds were going.
It will suggest based on the name of the supplier or things or it has rules now that you can just press OK, apply the rules.
Yes.
It's sort of like Homer Simpson with the little duck.
Yes.
It's like, when you set it up properly, and a lot of things, there's so many things are recurring, it's very sad. It's just the ones that are non-recurring that you then have to find out what's going on. So it keeps you so in touch with the business. You're so in touch with what's going on.
So automation's important then. Has that been something that you've seen that is as a positive in the industry?
Oh, absolutely. It's a great positive. Automation, in my opinion, essentially it's taking the grunt work out of accountancy.
Yeah.
And it's making it more interesting for everyone because you don't have to be journaling as hardly at all. Like I think I did one journal a month, to accrue things for most businesses, and maybe one or two others. But it's very automated, and so you spend your time analysing where they're spending the money and what they're doing and forecasting. It makes it more interesting.
It's really an advisor position, isn't it? And I think that's it's a really interesting thing we always talk about, and that's why I enjoy the podcast so much. Is really drilling down and I guess getting a little bit more than surface level with someone's journey. So those skills obviously have, held you in good stead and taken you through. So how do we go from accountancy to what you're doing now at Move On Consciously?
Oh, it is a little bit of an interesting journey actually. Like when I moved to the Sunshine Coast, it's the first probably place that I've lived in. And we talked to my husband about this when we first moved here because a lot of the buildings are quite new. Like a lot of the buildings, like living in Melbourne, for instance, and where I lived in the US and the UK, the buildings had been there since like the 1920s, a lot of the homes that we've lived in. Whereas having new buildings here and people are knocking down, rebuilding, I'm sort of getting used to seeing skips a lot. So we walk our dog.
Yes.
And there's a lot of skips in our area where you sort of go, okay, well, the house is being knocked down. That's perfectly understandable. But then I'm a bit nosy. I'm just naturally nosy.
Yes.
So you'd see skips in front of houses and I think...
I like inquisitive. I think that's good. You're inquisitive.
That's inquisitive. That's a positive slant on it. A positive slant on it. So, I started seeing skips full of household items. And I noticed it a few times and I'd sort of look at it and go, wow, like there's a ladder on top of that skip. and it's like a perfectly good ladder. And there's just things you sort of go, why is there so many household items? And then it occurred to me that they have so many retirees in this on the coast, and that's heavy in retirees. And a lot of retirees don't have family that live here. They have families that live,
Moved away from work.
Move away from work, or the person's moved here to retire, so their family's never been here. And I started to realise and I came to an understanding of that. Yeah, sometimes people will come down for the week and they just have to empty the home. They'll take what they need, then they have to empty it. And the quickest and most efficient way for them to do that is to hire a skip.
Yeah.
And then I started going, oh, that's what's going on. And I sort of thought, well, what else is the alternative? What is the alternative for these people? And I worked out there really isn't. There's one or two people. So I called a place. There's a national place that will do it.
Okay.
And there's a national place that will take things from the home and move them all to Brisbane and sell them centrally from there. But there's no one that was doing what I am now doing.
And were they taking everything, Belinda, or were they kind of cherry picking?
Cherry picking. So.
I think this is probably that's probably what everybody's perception is, or, so often we'll hear, this charity will only take X, Y, and Z. So really you are, we'll kind of skip ahead to where you are, but ultimately you're going to allow, basically in generally a 4-week process, you can basically return a empty home to the family, the real estate agent, for that next chapter.
That's right. So I don't move anything. I don't take it away. I don't have a truck. I stay at the home and am selling constantly from the home. So I go back every second day at least, and I have Facebook Marketplace that I sell by. I also donate a lot of things to charities as I go, and I also give things away to people who come to get things from Facebook Marketplace. So, for instance, household items such as even like stuff in the pantry. If someone comes to get something, I'll say, "Hey, would you like some coffee? We've got a bunch of coffee."
Amazing.
People buy things on specials. There's always 4 of something.
Yes, tea bags, right?
People get things on special, and they'll have would you like some tea? And they're like, "Oh, you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I'll let them know. No, this person doesn't need them anymore. So if you'd like some tea bags, just please take them. And they go, "Oh, thank you." And people are always quite often. They're happy to take a little bit extra. It's like a bargain. It's like, an added bonus for them. And it just empties it without throwing it away.
I love that. And so let's drill down on that, because that's the most important thing for you, isn't it? Is that, making sure that if it can be repurposed, and tell me your catchphrase. I know we've repeated it a few times today already.
So I sort of spent a little bit of time when I was starting the business thinking, how am I going to sort of market a little bit, or how am I going to be online and social media? And so I came up with the hashtag not in a skip. So one of the people I run with at Parkrun, her sister came down from Brisbane and they had to hire a skip as well. She said, "I wish I'd known about you, because it made me cry how much went into the skip."
Yeah. Well, even you've just had some conversations with our team who, you're literally like an angel to them now, that ability to help. And that's why it was really important for me to share your message.
I think people intrinsically don't want to throw away good things. People don't.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to take a good chair or a good dining table and just put it into a skip. But people are forced into those positions by just not knowing an alternative. So that's
I think time as well, time pressure, or like you say, not knowing where to turn. So where does this, care for the environment and passion for that as well? Because that really is at your core, and that's really evident.
Yeah, look, it's funny because you went to you're younger than me, but when I went to school, the environment wasn't something we learnt about. I just didn't learn about it. Like, it wasn't, I don't even know that I'd heard the word in primary school and high school. And then even at university, it really wasn't something that I was educated in accountancy. But when I had children and they started going to school, it was taught to them in primary, like in grade prep, and I was like, oh, and my sister got into it a little bit. She's into biology and plants and so forth, so she's sort of rubbish, trying to reduce, reuse.
Yes.
The first time I heard about those things, I went, oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that amazing? I can't even fathom that wouldn't have been taught. But you were saying your son came home and asked about solar.
Yes, he came home and said, Mum, do we have solar panels?
Yeah.
And we didn't. We didn't have solar panels. And I went, no, we don't. And he said, well, we should get them. And I went, oh.
Was this in prep?
In grade 1 or 2.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and he just sort of put me on the spot. And I went, why don't we have them? Why haven't I made that step?
Yeah.
And so, I took my husband and my husband is he's an accountant as well. So we had that conversation about, return.
Of course.
And my husband, when I look back on it, it's not to say he was short-sighted, but he didn't see the environmental extraneous.
It was a financial
It was
benefit.
a financial. He said, well, we're going to be here for a few more years. We already knew we were probably going to go travel. He said, so we won't get the benefit.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me to tell him the benefit will be when someone buys the house, that will be a capital asset. It will be an asset that will lower their bills for the rest of this house's life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter about just us getting the return on whatever it is we spend. It will be an environmental benefit and a monetary benefit for the person who buys the house. So yeah, don't think short term. Like the environment's a long period of time. Yeah, so we did get solar, and then we got it for the next 2 houses, and then he saw it because people like our real estate agents said to him, people are starting to see those as a benefit. Like,
isn't that amazing? Just to think, even that teacher educating, that may have been something that was a passion for them. Now I heard that you had actually also made an impact. So we got to meet each other through another member of the Caloundra Chamber of Commerce, and she actually told me that you had made a change in their coffee catch-ups, which was to BYO a coffee cup.
I try, I'm still trying. It's a work in progress. Yeah, look, I do find the coffee catch-ups, like the amount of single-use coffee cups here on the coast. I feel like it's a problem. I feel like it's going to be the next, like Woolworths and Coles now charge for bags. I think it's going to be the next thing that's going to be eventually charged for. And when you're going to have a coffee at a coffee catch-up, I feel like I've tried to sort of say, give, let's have photos or prizes for the ones with the
funky
most
cup or something.
Keep cup, so trying to encourage people to use their keep cup because it's one of those next things you can, next step of trying to be.
Well, it's all the little things, isn't it, that adds up. So you'll laugh because I made my own coffee at home this morning, and it was in an insulated cup, and I love cold coffee, and I thought I'll keep the lid off so that it doesn't stay warm. And ended up wearing that today. So I am dressed in a cafe latte.
You cannot tell.
Thank you. But it was ironic because I thought, gosh, I was trying to do the right thing, maybe subconsciously because you were coming. But you're right, and it's all those little things that make a difference. So I think ultimately your quest for the environmental component is so admirable, and certainly my experience with helping people to downsize, transitional selling is very much my heart and soul. I certainly like to help people. And I did an appraisal yesterday for an older gentleman, and he said, look, I want to put this table on Marketplace and didn't know how to navigate that. So I think all of these things, being able to help people navigate that process, and certainly that's just one component of, a whole process of leaving your home and moving to a new property. So, it's amazing that you can offer that service. And I know we've spoken about, your ideal scenario is, give me a certain amount of time. So let's go back to your family's experience, because that really was a compelling story that I felt.
Thank you. Yeah, that was another thing. At the same time as I was sort of walking around in Sunshine Coast going, look at all these skips. So my mother had a fall. She had a fall, and she's now very unfortunately in a wheelchair. But and she's had to go directly into aged care. She was in hospital for a period of time until they could get her into aged care. And when I said my sister's in Melbourne. So my sisters and my mum are all in Melbourne. So that happened about June 2-3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly. And I was still working here on the coast, so I was busy with my own life. But then I resigned from that job in November, and I said to my sisters, how's Mum's house going? Because at the time when it happened, I went with my sisters and we took out the jewellery out of the home and we emptied the fridge and just did a few little things like that.
Yeah.
And I just had the understanding that they would slowly empty the home.
Gradually do that.
Yeah, especially once she went into care. Once she got into care and it was clear she wasn't coming back to the home. And I guess for a few months there it was everything was up in the air. But once she was safely in the home, I just assumed they would do that. And they said to me, look, Belinda, we both work full-time jobs. When do we have the time to do that? Like it's enough just keeping the garden of Mum's house fine and ticking it along. And they said with the aged care stuff you have to do with money and so forth, they have 2 years to do it.
Yep.
I said, yeah, but you're not going to leave a home for that long, surely. And they said, we'll get to it. We will get to it. And I said, look, how about I come up and I'll do it. So I'd already been selling my own personal stuff. And my kids, every time the kids grow out of stuff, I'd been selling on Facebook Marketplace for a few years.
Yeah.
So I went up there and I had a 2-week holiday around Christmas time. I spent 3 days in the house. Then my sisters and I went on a little holiday together, and then I spent 3 days at the house at the end, and the house was empty.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I think, you really encapsulated it where sometimes if you've got more time or it's even overwhelming where to start, respecting the items. But, certainly from when we've met previously, you've got a passion for what you do, but I think also you've got determination, and you can really do it as a process-driven exercise. And obviously with the accounting background as well, you can obviously articulate, cost benefit, analysis of the situation.
Yeah, it's interesting how that does play into it, because my sisters, one of them came for the day and she said, I'll help you. And after about an hour, she sort of sat down and she said, this is overwhelming, Belinda. I just need to take a break.
Yes.
And I was like, well, but we've got to look at the photograph this. We've got to let's get through all of this room today.
Yeah.
And she was feeling overwhelmed. And I sort of went, and I guess I can divorce. I mean, I am a practical person. I guess the accountancy breakdown just says, well,
yes,
this is a piece of furniture. Mum's fine. Mum doesn't need this furniture anymore. And we've just got to, I don't want to leave this as a problem for my sisters that just sit here and sit here. So yeah, I'm able to just go, yeah, this is a piece of furniture. It's not something that Mum needs anymore, and none of us need it. So let's just move it. And one thing I do get really enjoyment out of is seeing the people come and collect them.
Yeah,
seeing
amazing.
Those people.
Yes.
Like there were bunk beds in Mum's
yes.
top. Mum had a little townhouse. She hadn't used those bunk beds for years. She hadn't been in the top level of her house.
There you go.
So she just had one room downstairs
yes.
with a bathroom and the kitchen and everything. She had 2 rooms upstairs. And I'm like seeing this couple that got this bunk beds for their kids, and like, this is going to be so great. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be a great thing. Your kids are going to love this. It's a really nice bunkers set of beds, good quality, solid wood. And they were just so happy. And it's like a lot of people who come to get the items. So yeah, I see that.
It's like treasure hunting, isn't it? And I know we spoke about that. We both got a love of op shops, and I'd certainly grow up in a family of collectors, and I know my mum collects Denby-ware, and I always think when she finds something, whether it's at a Collectorama or an op shop or marketplace, the joy it brings. So yeah, we have all of these treasures, don't we, hidden away in cupboards and things that are never used.
And yeah, my mum even had stuff which really actually made me sad, because I hadn't been, I'd seen my mum out a lot. I'd
yes.
seen her with my sisters. So I hadn't been to her home for probably 2 years, and she had stuff that was in the garage that she just moved to the garage.
Yes.
So like she could barely get out of her car. There was dinner, there was a sideboard, there was an old microwave, there was so many things in the garage that she just couldn't fit into the little house. I was just like, oh my goodness, like I should have helped her with this probably much earlier. I should have spent more time at her home and helped her to downsize, because she was surrounded by a lot of things and
isn't it?
That's stuff that wasn't probably draining her as well. Like just
such a good point, because I think that there's real magic in that it's that not waiting till that moment, is actually looking at. I'm a bit of a collector, but I'm also a minimalist. So I kind of go, a bit like you, I'm very analytical. So does this serve me? Would somebody else find enjoyment? I certainly done that with clothes over the years as well. If somebody would find joy from it, or, it's a size I'm never going to get back into or anything, there'll be somebody that loves that. So I think there's definitely magic in that, is that, that's what I'm hoping your, coming on the podcast just inspires people to have a look at what they've got around them. So if you weren't doing what you were doing, what else would you do?
It's funny. I'd probably, realistically, I'd probably still be in accounting.
Yes.
But if I wasn't doing this, I do like volunteering. I do like helping people. So I did work in an op shop for 6 months while I was sort of between up, and I quit my job and I came back to Sunshine Coast before I really got into this creating my own business, which was a bit of a mind thing for me, because I'd never done that. I'd always the security of working for someone else and getting a paycheck.
Of course.
So yeah, I worked for an op shop, and I really there's a few gaps in all sorts of places, and like op shops get so many things that, like you said, your mum collects Denby.
Yes.
So when you know what people collect,
yes,
and you could, like, I know some op shops are quite with it, and they'll have someone who puts things on Facebook Marketplace or put things on eBay.
There you go.
But a lot of them don't have that person who's got that, that essentially phone or computer literacy, whatever you want to call it, that can really find those items and whack them on and get a better price, because you apply rather than just waiting for someone to walk through.
That's right.
It'll move much faster if you put it online.
Well, that's a really good evolution of that as well, isn't it? I didn't realise that they did that.
Yeah, some of them do. Right. Some of them do, but some of them, each one is different, of course, of what they're, if the head offices.
Yes.
Each one is a little bit different. Yeah. But I love the idea of getting that, of encouraging op shops and working with op shops to do more of that sort of things. I think, as a volunteer, even, because it's just.
Absolutely. Gosh, it would have been interesting, the treasures that came in, though.
It is. It is always interesting. And some of them come in like terrible condition, and sometimes they don't have the time. like it must be. I only did a little bit of the sorting. I was usually on the front, like bringing clothes out, and I just did various customer service sort of area.
Yes.
But the people who are sorting, I'm glad I didn't do that job because it must be so hard. They have to make decisions to throw a lot of things.
That's right. Yeah.
And it just has to be done in an op shop because you get a lot of stuff. So I think it's hard.
Let's chat about the condition of items because I know that was something interesting that I found because there is a bit of I guess, an oversaturation or a perception that op shops sort of say no to X, Y and Z. So what's your experience been and I guess why have you chosen Marketplace as a platform to sell?
So my experience has been that, yes, op shops are, like I've in 2 houses that I felt like things weren't moving fast enough. I've caught, and the ladies, a lot of the people who are my clients are very happy. They know that I do this, that I try to get the op shops to take them if I can't move them. And they've said, look, we've got a truck every 2 weeks that comes out here or whatever, but we've got a full warehouse. And they have to send the photos.
Yes.
And if there's anything that's really amiss, they just, and certain bed types that they only want beds that are on the bases. Most of them will not take beds that are on slats for some reason.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what that policy is for. But really it has to be in great condition for them to take it because they want to move.
Of course, that's their business.
Yeah, and most of the place that I've been to, particularly if someone's been elderly, the couch might have a stain. The couch might have a scratch. It'll have pen marks or something.
It's a life well lived, right?
Yeah, and they might have had that for 10 years plus. And one of the couches I managed to sell, I was amazed I actually managed to sell it for $100. It actually had a hole in the it was quite a new one, but I don't know if a rat or an animal had eaten a hole in it.
Yes.
And she just used a cushion to cover it up.
Yeah, there you go.
So, people don't want to necessarily upgrade all the time.
There's a buyer for everything.
But there is a buyer for everything. And honestly, it looked totally fine. And I was very clear, this is it. But the rest of the couch is awesome, 100. And someone came and grabbed it for $100. I was like, thank goodness I don't have to take that to the tip.
Yeah.
But op shops are quite choosy. I've only managed to get them to take one couch. And it's interesting because this couch was a 2-seater, a 3-seater, and 2 single-seaters. And I managed to sell the 2 singles. I managed to sell the 2-seater, but I couldn't move the 3-seater, just no one.
Yeah.
And so, luckily the op shop did take that one. But that's the only time I've managed to get an op shop to say yes.
To bigger furniture.
To bigger furniture because they just, and it was a velvet green couch. It was retro and cool, but
there's a small market for that, right?
There's a small market for that,
yeah. And so I know I always ask people what are some misconceptions or myths, in their business. So do you want to share, one of yours?
Absolutely. So a lot of the people who ask me to do it sort of say they have some experience on Facebook Marketplace, but they find that it's just overwhelming how many scammers or how many people waste their, it can be a big waste. It can be a waste of time. People say, is this available?
Yes.
You go, yes, it is. And then nothing. And, at the end of the day, people are online. They sometimes just don't respond at all or they muck you around.
Can I interject there and just add? So interesting that you say that. Because I used to always hit that, is it available? And I'm happy to put my hand up with this because I didn't know that you could save the item. So I would hit the is it available so that it sat in my inbox, not knowing that there was a save function. So it was only that somebody said to me their frustration with people saying, is it available? And I said, well, that's how I save an item.
Oh, I did not know that.
There you go. No, so I quite often, I would always hit that, but just really wanting to come back to it. So anyway, I digress.
Interesting to know. I did not know that.
But scamming, so interesting. So Pay ID, I know, is something that you feel sometimes people think is a scam.
Yeah, so I'm an accountant by background, really. So Pay ID is offered by all of the banks, and all it is linking your phone number or your email. I always encourage people to do a phone number to one of your bank accounts. And that means once you've created that one-to-one link, that someone can pay through their normal bank to mobile. And it will actually say, once they type in my mobile number, you're paying Belinda Massey. You're paying, this is who. So they get that confirmation.
It's instant, isn't it?
It's instant confirmation before they then check, yep, I'll pay that person.
Yes.
Whereas a bank transfer, some people are comfortable with bank transfers. And I say, well, that requires you to type in normally 6, hopefully it's copy and paste.
Yes.
But if you're typing it in, 6 numbers plus 9 numbers, and there's no confirmation you've gotten it right.
Correct.
So anyway, Pay ID, don't get me wrong, sometimes scammers can use things.
Yes.
But Pay ID, people say, I don't have it. Well, do you have a bank account?
Yes.
And you have it.
Yes.
So Pay ID is actually really it really is secure, and you could definitely use it. And I particularly for bigger items of furniture, if someone says to me, can you keep that for me till Saturday?
Yes.
And I've got 4 weeks to clear this house. So
Yes.
it's like, well, what, today's Tuesday, you want me to keep it to Saturday? Why don't you pay me like $5 or $10?
Bit of skin in the game.
So that I know you'll definitely come and collect it.
Yeah, great.
And so I say, and I ask them to do it through Pay ID. And I've had to educate a lot of people. They say, what's that? Like, I'm not used to that. And I'm like, please, I'm not a scammer. Bear with me. It's just through your normal bank, and I have to go and to and fro. But they can usually, I reckon, 80% of the time they'll give it a go for $5.
Great. Well, and you're changing lives all the time.
And I actually think financial capability, and I call it financial capability because things are just changing all the time.
Yes.
And we're relying on our phone more and more. The more we can have our financial capability at a level that's keeping up, then as we age, we won't be left behind.
That's profound. Yeah, that's really
financial independence for women, particularly.
I'm so passionate. My gran was Danish, and I remember we would always go with her passbook to the post office to draw cash out, and just with the language barrier, it was always really difficult. And her getting a bank card was just so overwhelming. So I'm big on that as well. So. But that's a good little myth to dispel, which is great. All right, let's have a chat. So we know what you love about your role. We know what you have done to get to where you are. Where is the business now? So chat through, I guess, where you are now and where you want to grow the business to.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people say to me, do I want to grow the business? And at the moment, I've done 9 houses in about a year and a half.
Amazing.
I'd like to get to the point where I'm doing about 10 houses a year, although I could probably go up to 14 and still be comfortable because they do take about 4 weeks.
Yes, but you're just one home at a time?
Well, no, I can do one for 2 weeks and then start another one.
Okay.
I can have 2 on the go, but they have to be close together. Like the Clownda Rise Retirement Village is one that I've done 2 villas at the same time.
And I hear that you're highly recommended from them. One of our colleagues just got your details from them, which is great.
Yeah, it's so lovely to hear that I'm starting to be recommended.
Yes.
It's humbling to see that I'm being recommended because I try to do a great job and I try to be kind to the community that I'm in and make sure that they're aware of what I'm doing and just be friendly, of course. At the end
well, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, it's the same when I was just saying to you off air that one of my clients is travelling, and so they had a lot of pot plants that weren't required by the buyer, and so I put them on a community board last night, more so as a giveaway. And I think I said to you I had 15 messages, and my clients were rapt that somebody's going to love and care for them, and they'll continue to grow and flourish. So it is a really lovely ability to be able to do that.
It is passing something on to someone who will love it. And someone who really wants it enough to come pick it up. And like it's a great feeling. It is a great feeling. Like I've always found without exception that people are pretty grateful and pretty nice, and they tell you a bit of the story about what they're going to do with it or why they want it. And it's just, people's stories are fascinating. They always are.
So lovely. I have to ask, what's the most obscure thing that you've found or something that's taken you by surprise?
Absolutely. So in one of the homes that I was clearing out, the gentleman who owned the villa, he had been the carer of his mother previously. So I knew the story, and when I was clearing out his kitchen items, I sometimes put Tupperware on just to see if it will move, but for whatever reason it doesn't. I usually end up taking it to the op shop. But at the back of the kitchen on one of the second or third last days, I found a casserole dish. And it was a Corningware casserole dish. And I remember my mother used to have them. I recognised it. So I went, but I didn't even really know what it was worth. And I looked at it, it was in pretty much perfect condition. Like it looked like it had never been used. So I do what I always do, and this is a tip for all of the listeners out there.
Yes.
The Google photo frame, right? So you take a photo, you just get the item, take a photo of it and search, and it will tell you, especially for well-known items such as Corningware, what it's worth.
Amazing. And you take lots of photos, right?
Oh, my goodness. I take, of course, to put them on Facebook Marketplace. People want to see left, right and centre, every single
measurements.
Angle, measurements, all of that stuff before you. So I walk around with a bum bag and with a little tape measure.
Love it.
I love the physicality of my job, actually. I'm constantly on my knees, going from up, going from high, going...
And what else do you need to put in an ad to effectively sell the product? Sorry, we've deviated.
To effectively sell a product, you've got to pull all your measurements.
Yes.
You've got to put any imperfections.
Good
People
point.
will say, is there any imperfections?
Yes.
And it's like, no, I would, I've got to be careful because it's like, if they're the first time buyer or whatever.
Yes.
I would always put if there's an imperfection. If this is what it looks like, and I've taken a photo of every angle. And some people don't even know to click on it. They'll just contact straight from
Correct.
that first little, I don't know, what do you call it, thumbnail?
Thumbnail, yes.
But I said, scroll through the photos, you'll see every angle. And when there's only 10,
yes.
only 10 angles, you have to be careful. I try not to include anything else in the home.
Yeah, I loved that. You said that you'd really kind of have a bit of a working zone.
Yeah, and I try to, I move them so they're on their own because you don't want to look like it's crowded.
Yes.
And if you can possibly avoid it, do not photograph things in the garage. Always move them. Even if they've been in the garage for a few years, move them back into the house, dust them off, and then photograph them because people don't like buying from a garage.
I love it. Good tip.
So, and then I just put in the title, I always check what it's normally sold as.
Wonderful.
So, for instance, for instance, a desk, you put desk and you put solid or wood, just make it easy for people to know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And if it's got a brand or a model number, definitely whack that into the description. But then in description, put up, even though people for whatever reason don't trust when they see there's usually a map, but I always put pick up and then I put the suburb. Put the suburb exactly where it is. So people will still text and say, where am I picking up?
Yes.
It's from Warana.
Oh,
whatever.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I think, it's a psychology of selling. It's an interesting thing. But that's some gold hints and tips.
Yeah, I think people, the dimensions are very important. People always have a space, they want to put it in, so you've got to give those dimensions.
Oh, look, I think it's an absolute non-negotiable. We always have a measuring tape at properties. We'll laminate a sign that has the fridge dimensions. All of those things are so important. Always measurements on a floor plan and a site plan. So it's just really about helping people during the process, and obviously that expedites the sales process for you and therefore for your clients. Speaking of, I guess, the revenue or the benefit for your clients, I know one of the things that my team asked you was actually about whether you charge a percentage of the sales or how you're remunerated for your service.
Absolutely. So I do not charge a percentage fee, and the reason being is that I often give things away, and that's just part of the process. So I don't want to be locked into having to get the best price because what I sell is an empty home, so I don't always get the price. And I make it very clear to the clients, look, you may get if you had all the time in the world, you could do this and maybe get a better price.
Correct.
But you're giving me 4 weeks, so I'm going to try to make your item both stand out from the photos and everything, but also it's got to be that little bit cheaper than everything else because I want people to come to your item, not the 10 others that are out there on Facebook.
Creates that excitement level.
Yeah, and it's got to be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, everyone wants a win, don't they? I mean, we are intrinsically, that's how we're marketed to now, isn't it? A sale or a bargain.
Price on Facebook Marketplace is very important.
And time as well. So, if you're Warana, I want to go, okay, well, in my mind, this is my nerdy brain, it's like, okay, well, that's going to be 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back. When is the convenient time? So, that's important. So fixed fee is great.
So I charge a fixed fee based on basically how big the house is and what level of items there are. Like some people, like you said, are minimalist and it's a bit easier to move those sorts of homes because there's just less there. Others have a lot of stuff covering lots of surfaces and it will just take time to go through that. So, I price based on roughly how long it'll take me. And I also try to make sure, because I'm a growing business and I'm a business that wants to get referrals, I always try to make sure that the customer ends off better off.
Amazing.
So what I find is I've gotten pretty good now at sort of guessing what value I'll get for the furniture and the items. So I think, okay, well, if I'm going to get, let's say I think maybe $2,000 from selling all of those items, but it will, I'll try to charge $1,500 if it's a small 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. But if it's a bigger, of course, I have to charge more like $2,000 or $2,500. But they will usually end up with $4,000 or $5,000. So they always end up with money over the top because I try to say, look, you're not going to charge. You won't have. I'll save you time because it'll take you no time at all.
Yes.
You won't have to dump anything because that comes out of usually what I just do that off. Usually right at the end there might be something that needs to go, but I'll say I will arrange that for you out of the money I've already collected and then the money I give them is after that. Yep. So I really take care of that and the house is empty and you just get the money over the top.
Such a stress-free process for them.
It is. And all they have to do is pay me the 50% of my fee up front and then I just collect and collect and collect.
Perfect, yeah.
And then I pay myself essentially that second half and then the rest just goes to them and I start remitting them the money usually after 3 weeks. I'll sort of say, I've had one person who was a little bit strapped for cash. They said, can you just give me some now? I was like, of course you can. I'm still selling, but I'll send you what I've got over the top already. And then I make a final payment at the end of it and say, all done, your house is empty. And every 2 or 3 days I send them the spreadsheet of how I'm going with collections.
I love it. You're such an accountant.
I am such an accountant. I'm such an accountant.
I love your break even as well. You're like, okay, well, I need to make that.
Yeah, I try to.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And look, sometimes it doesn't happen, and sometimes that's not somebody's motivation. I mean, you can't put a price on the stress that you're relieving with people in this, and so often, it's not necessarily just the resident, but their family as well. And I know how precious time is for people.
It is. It really is. Like a time to go because at the end of the day, someone's got to have to go through the items, right? Even if you throw them in a skip, you have to go through them, and you want someone trusted to go through them because they can find those items of value, whether it be the jewellery that's in the shoebox or the corningware that's in the back of the kitchen. You don't want someone just picking that up and throwing that out. So by getting me to do it, you really know that I'll generally find that value. I mean, I won't always find everything. There might be something that I might miss and give it to the op shop, but hopefully the clients themselves have an idea what's in the home.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
funny you say about casserole dishes, and I probably shouldn't say this on a published podcast, but I know my mum has a little secret stash of cash in somewhere in her home, which she has told me. But I always think, heaven help her if something happened to me as well, that somebody would get the best surprise. Did you say about you found jewellery in a shoebox?
Yeah, jewellery in a shoebox. And, it was just in a little envelope. And it's like, oh, look at that. And I was,
Look, we have all of these treasures.
Yes, people have things like that, and I've never found anything under a mattress yet. That's not a favourite anymore.
No,
that's not a favourite.
In a manhole is some of the things that I've had. People have forgotten to have a look in the attic, so. No doubt there'll be many stories. I'm sure you'll have a podcast that you'll be able to do with the stories you could tell. So what you do is absolutely amazing. But let's get to know you a little bit more. So what is your dream holiday destination, Belinda?
So my dream holiday is Copenhagen and Monaco. Those two places I've never been there. And it's the royal
Yes.
Benton. The history. I love history.
Yes.
And I'm not a huge fan of the English monarchy anymore.
I noticed you didn't include them.
But
yes.
no, I have been to the UK, so that's probably why it's not the dream job one anymore, because I've been to all those castles. But I do love a good castle.
I love this. And history. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we're such a new country. So I mentioned to you off air that I'm Danish and had the privilege of going through Princess Mary's palace before she moved in. And that was amazing back in, I think, 2010. And it was lovely to see tributes of Australia there. So I'm very much a Danish royalist. My best amour, loved our Queen Marguerite, and she's obviously passed on and abdicated for her son.
Isn't that amazing that she did that? It's such a show of confidence in her son. And I wish the Queen, Charles and all that, she had done that and shown that level of confidence in her child, because I think Queen Marguerite is a modern woman who's like, I'm done.
Absolutely. So lots to be learned. And Monaco, well, interesting, a lot of history there. Obviously, Grace Kelly.
Yeah, Grace Kelly is just, when I was young, I just thought she was just the most beautiful woman, and just, the story. It's a bit like the Queen Mary. I mean, she was a star sort of already.
Yes.
It's just, I was a huge fan. I've read a few autobiographies and just biographies of Grace Kelly, and she's a beautiful lady.
Well, you will go off to your palaces, which is lovely. Belinda, tell us, what was the best day of your life?
I've got to be a traditionalist here, and I've got 2 kids.
Yes.
So absolutely.
2 best days.
2 best days,
yes.
2 best days. Giving birth, healthily and happily, without too much intervention, very healthily for me. It was just a huge
well
day.
Done.
So I was super happy with my body and with what I was able to achieve with my 2 healthy children.
What an accomplishment. Is that something that you did preparation for? Is it something you were mindful of ahead of the births?
Yeah, I mean, I read the books, What to Expect When You're Expecting. I did the right stuff. I didn't eat cheese or bloody salami or anything for 9 months. So I did all the right things, and it's just such a responsibility, of your husband carrying that child.
Yes.
And I was worried. I used to think, things can go wrong. So I think I was quite anxious leading up to it. So I was just super glad when it all went well.
It was safe. And now the boys?
Yeah, they're both healthy individuals. One's out in Melbourne doing first year of uni, so that's great. He's out off being a citizen.
Yes, and second is a genius, I believe.
Oh, I'm looking at what he's going to bring my own. He's a very bright boy, and I'm very proud of him.
I'm saying that because he was a very lovely feedback from my podcast. I just thought I'd give him a little shout out for that.
He's a good kid.
Wonderful.
He's a great kid.
Belinda, what do you enjoy, your favourite meal and drinks?
My favourite meal is definitely Indian. I do love a good sauce, and my favourite restaurant is it's funny, it's in Malula, but I've been there several times.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think locals.
Yes.
I think sometimes skip Malula Bar because it's maybe touristy or
Yes.
whatever. But the Shalimar, which I think now, they've changed names actually, that one in the corner right near the surf club.
I knew you were going to say that. I've heard that's amazing.
It is really good. And they've recently, they're upgrading their furniture and they're sort of spruiking their, what do you call it, renovating a little bit, just this, the look of the place. So it's getting more modern. And yeah, they just got a great meal. They're
nice, authentic Indian.
I've never been to India to
Okay,
know, but
yes.
I do really like that one. They've got great sauces, great.
What's your go-to curry?
My son always ordered butter chicken. I like a different one every time. Honestly, I really like to, I've been there about 4 times and I just try to do a different one every time, try to working my way through.
I like it. That's awesome.
I do, I love it. I've had nothing this bad.
So when I met my husband, I was amazed because he only had the same dish at Indian and the same dish at Thai. So I think that's really awesome. And mild, medium or spicy?
Mild to medium.
I like it.
Mild
That's
to medium.
good.
Yeah, my son sometimes goes spicy and I try it, but it's, mild to medium.
I've graduated to medium now.
Yeah,
but
medium I can cope with most of the time.
Anything more than that's pretty intense. Go-to drink?
Probably lemon bitters.
Oh, that's a nice one.
It's a traditional.
We need that here on the Sunshine Coast, don't we? Refreshing.
Refreshing, exactly, without being too without having regrets the next day.
And in a keep cup?
Yeah. I try to always go to a place that just serve me in a glass. Like
Yes.
I always look. It's like what? Yeah, and
I did get a glass of water today. I didn't get one of our bottles of water, so you've influenced me.
So, look how beautiful that water is too. It's like sometimes you can I do get joy out of having my own container, and I don't know the containers there.
Yes,
Makes a difference.
It's funny. I'm a very much accessories with my drinks, so it'll be like a bit of grated ginger or mint leaves or ice or lime wedges. Like nothing boring for me.
As I was saying the other day, I have yet to purchase. I've never purchased real ginger. I'm I'm a pretty traditional Australian cook.
Yes.
I love ginger. I have ginger in a jar in my fridge.
Yeah.
But I've really got to expand my cooking repertoire. I'm not a very experimental cook.
So I think your number one destination from here is the Ginger Factory at Yandina.
I have been there. I do like their candy. I like their cordial.
Yeah.
But I've never gotten a bit of ginger and grated it.
Oh, it's going to change your life. Yeah, stir fries. Oh, I love grated ginger, but definitely in a refreshing drink is really lovely. So there you go. That's your challenge. And Belinda, to end our lovely conversation, which has just been obviously a blessing, I'm so grateful for the service that you offer the community. Looking forward to us being able to collaborate, especially with my passion for downsizing. I know you're going to be a gift that continues to give my clients and the world. So in that note, I'm going to leave you to end with your favourite quote or saying.
Thank you, Amy. My favourite quote is, God helps those who help themselves.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me and for making me feel so welcome. It's been a pleasure. It really has.
Pleasure. You had no nerves.
I did. I definitely did. But you're just such a friendly, welcoming person.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for being with us here on Beyond the Signboard, Belinda Massey from Move On Consciously.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Signboard. We trust you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it for you. If there are any topics you want covered in the future, make sure you reach out and let us know. Also, feedback and suggestions are appreciated, almost as much as likes, shares and downloads.